Captain Jake Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and stared at the message from the Galactic Council. The aliens had sent their first contact protocols, and the information made him laugh. Earth was listed as a mild-temperate world, and humans were marked as Category 2, standard biological forms. According to their files, humans were weak creatures who barely survived on their gentle home planet. Jake shook his head and called Dr. Lisa Carter to the bridge. Lisa was the ship's expert on alien life forms, and he wanted her opinion on this strange classification system. When she read the Council's report, she burst out laughing. "They think we're weak?" Lisa asked, wiping tears from her eyes. "Have they seen what we call normal weather on Earth?" The Council had sent detailed information about the galaxy's strongest species. The Karathi ruled the most dangerous worlds in space. These reptile-like beings stood 12 feet tall and had thick armor covering their bodies. The armor could stop plasma weapons, and they had backup organs that kept them alive even when badly hurt. They could sleep for decades without food, water, and they lived on planets where the air pressure would crush most creatures and radiation would cook them in minutes. Jake read the report again. The Karathi were coming to Earth to meet humans for the first time. They expected to find fragile beings who needed help to survive on their own world. The captain wondered what the aliens would think when they saw humans doing everyday things that might seem impossible to them. 3 days later, the Karathi ship arrived at Earth. Jake watched through the view screen as the massive vessel approached. The space station. The ship was built like a fortress, with thick walls and heavy shields. It looked like it was designed to survive in the worst conditions imaginable. Ambassador Vorthik led the Karathi delegation. He was a huge creature with dark green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to glow in the light. The alien wore a full environmental suit and brought a team of doctors with him. The Karathi clearly expected humans to be so weak that they might get sick just from meeting aliens. The first meeting took place in the station's main conference room. Vorthik struggled to walk in Earth's gravity, which was normal for humans but seemed to crush the mighty Karathi warrior. The alien's breathing was heavy, and he moved slowly, as if carrying a great weight. "Your world has very strong gravity," Vorthik said through his translator. "How do you survive such crushing force every day?" Jake looked confused. "This is normal. Gravity for us, we don't even notice it." Lisa stepped forward with a smile. "Ambassador, would you like to see our recreation center? We have a swimming pool and a gymnasium where our people exercise." Vorthik's eyes widened. "You perform physical activities in this gravity? That seems impossible." During the tour, Lisa showed the Karathi delegation around the station. The aliens were amazed by everything they saw. In the medical bay, human doctors worked without protective suits, breathing the same air as their patients. The Karathi medical team wore full environmental gear and warned that human atmosphere was dangerous to most species. "Your air contains high levels of oxygen," the Karathi doctor explained. "This gas is highly toxic to most life forms." "How do your people survive breathing such poison?" Dr. Carter smiled. "We need oxygen to live. Our bodies use it to create energy. Without it, we would die in minutes." The Karathi exchanged worried looks. They realized that humans breathed deadly gas as easily as they breathed their own safe atmosphere. This information didn't match their files about weak Earth creatures. The next surprise came when Vorthik wanted to demonstrate Karathi's strength and survival skills. He led the human delegation to a specially prepared chamber where the temperature was set to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The Karathi ambassador entered the chamber without his environmental suit, showing how his people could survive in extreme heat. "This is how the Karathi prove our strength," Vorthik said proudly. "Few species can survive such dangerous conditions." Lisa watched the demonstration with interest. "That's impressive, Ambassador. On Earth, we call that temperature a sauna. Humans use chambers like this to relax after work. Vorthic's jaw dropped. You use such extreme heat for pleasure? Many humans enjoy temperatures even hotter, Jake added. Some of our people work in conditions that are much more dangerous than this. The Karathi began to look nervous. Their instruments showed that the space station's air was filled with what they considered toxic gases. The gravity was crushing their bodies, and humans were talking about surviving in conditions that would challenge even Karathi warriors. Lieutenant Ben Walsh joined the group for the cultural exchange program. Ben was a former Marine who had served in Earth's military. The Karathi insisted that he wear full life support equipment when visiting their homeworld, certain that the harsh environment would kill him quickly. Your people are brave but foolish, Vorthic warned. Our world has dangerous radiation, poisonous atmosphere, and gravity that varies wildly. No soft creature like a human could survive there. Ben smiled. I've been in worse places, sir. Let's give it a try. The trip to the Karathi homeworld shocked everyone. The planet had thick yellow clouds that blocked most sunlight. The air was filled with gases that would kill most species, and radiation levels were high enough to damage equipment. The Karathi expected Ben to collapse within hours. Instead, the human Marine adapted quickly. His body's natural cooling system handled the heat, and his immune system fought off germs that the Karathi considered deadly. Within a day, Ben was walking around without his helmet, breathing the alien air as if it were normal. This isn't so bad, Ben told the amazed Karathi. Reminds me of some training exercises we did in the desert back home. The Karathi scientists ran tests on Ben's body, trying to understand how he could survive in their hostile environment. The results made no sense to them. Humans had no thick armor, no backup organs, and no ability to hibernate for long periods. Yet this soft creature was surviving better than many Karathi warriors. Dr. Carter studied the data from Ben's visit. Your people are impressive survivors, she told Vorthak. But I think there's been a misunderstanding about Earth and humans. What do you mean? The ambassador asked. Earth isn't a mild, gentle world, Lisa explained. It's actually quite dangerous. We have storms that can destroy entire cities, earthquakes that can split the ground apart, and weather that can kill exposed humans in minutes. We've learned to survive because our world taught us to be tough. Vorthak looked at the human scientist with new respect. But your people seem so fragile. We might look fragile, Jake said, but we come from a world that doesn't let weak creatures survive. Every human you meet is the descendant of people who lived through ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, and disasters that would wipe out most species. The Karathi delegation spent several more days studying humans and Earth. They learned that human children played games that would terrify adult Karathi. Human workers performed jobs in conditions that challenged the galaxy's toughest species. Human athletes competed in events that pushed their bodies to limits that seemed impossible. When the Karathi finally returned to their homeworld, they carried with them a new understanding. The creatures they had expected to find were not the weak beings described in their files. Humans were survivors from a world so dangerous that it had created the toughest species the galaxy had ever seen. Ambassador Vorthik filed his report with the Galactic Council. His words would change how the galaxy viewed Earth and its people forever. The humans, he wrote, were not weak creatures who needed protection. They were something far more dangerous and impressive than anyone had imagined. Galaxy was about to learn what it really meant to be built for survival. 2 weeks after the first meeting, the Karathi sent another message to Captain Jake Rodriguez. Ambassador Vorthak wanted to test human survival skills properly. The aliens had chosen a world called Kepler 442b for the trial. According to Karathi records, this planet was moderately hostile and would be a fair test for any species claiming to be strong survivors. Jake read the planet's description and frowned. Kepler 442b had gravity twice as strong as Earth, an atmosphere so thin that most creatures would suffocate, and temperature changes that could freeze water solid at night and boil it during the day. Radiation from the nearby star was strong enough to cook most life forms. The Karathi considered it a challenging but survivable world for their warriors. "They want to test us on that nightmare planet?" Dr. Lisa Carter asked when Jake showed her the message. "Apparently, they think it's a reasonable challenge," Jake replied. "They're bringing a full expedition team with environmental shelters and supply drops." Marine Sergeant Amy Davis volunteered to lead the human team. Amy was a tough soldier who had served in some of Earth's most dangerous places. She picked 11 other humans for the mission, including Dr. Paul Martinez, a field medic who had worked in disaster zones around the world. "What equipment should we request from Earth Command?" Amy asked during the planning meeting. Jake looked at the planet data again. "Standard camping gear should be fine. Maybe bring some extra water purification. Tablets." The Karathi were amazed by the human preparation. While they loaded their ship with massive environmental domes, industrial air processors, and enough supplies for a small city, the humans packed simple backpacks and basic camping equipment. Dr. Martinez brought medical supplies that would fit in a normal Earth ambulance. "Your people are either very brave or very foolish," Vorthik told Jake as they watched the loading process. "Our warriors require extensive support to survive on Kepler 442b. "We'll be fine," Jake said. "Humans are good at adapting." The trip to Kepler 442b took 3 days. During the journey, the Karathi team practiced survival drills and tested their equipment. The human team played cards, told stories, and acted like they were going on a camping trip. This casual attitude worried the Karathi observers. When they reached the planet, the differences became clear immediately. The Karathi established a base camp with climate-controlled shelters, defensive barriers, and communication arrays. There, warriors wore heavy protective suits and moved carefully in the strong gravity. The process took 2 full days and required constant supply drops from their orbiting ship. The human team landed in a simple shuttle and walked out wearing basic environmental suits. Sergeant Davis looked around at the rocky landscape, checked her instruments, and nodded to her team. "Looks like a nice place for a hike," she said. "Let's find somewhere to set up camp." Within 6 hours, the humans had built shelters using rocks and metal sheets from their landing craft. They found a water source in a nearby canyon and tested it for safety. By evening, they had identified several plants that might be edible and mapped the local area for potential dangers. The Karathi watched in amazement as the humans adapted to conditions that challenged their finest warriors. When night fell and temperatures dropped below freezing, the humans simply added layers of clothing and continued working. The Karathi had to retreat to their heated shelters. "Their body heat regulation is incredible," the Karathi scientist Zethrix reported to Vorthek. "They're surviving temperature changes that would put our people into emergency hibernation." The real test came on the 3rd day when solar storms increased radiation levels across the planet. The Karathi declared a medical emergency and ordered all personnel to underground shelters. Their instruments showed radiation doses that would kill most galactic species within hours. Sergeant Davis received the warning and checked her team's radiation detectors. The levels were high but not immediately dangerous by human standards. She ordered her people to limit their time outside and take regular breaks in shaded areas, then continued the mission. "Are they insane?" Vorthik asked when he saw the humans. "Still working. That radiation will kill them." Dr. Martinez monitored his team's health carefully. Humans had natural resistance to radiation damage, and their cellular repair systems could handle moderate exposure. The levels that terrified the Karathi were dangerous to humans, but not immediately fatal. "We're fine," Martinez reported to the worried aliens. "This is about the same as getting several medical X-rays. Not pleasant, but we can handle it for a few days." The breaking point came when a Karathi supply shuttle crashed in the planet's polar region. The area was considered completely lethal by Karathi standards. Temperatures fluctuated wildly, the terrain was unstable, and radiation levels were even higher than the rest of the planet. The Karathi wrote off the supplies and crew as lost. Sergeant Davis volunteered to attempt a rescue mission. The Karathi tried to stop her, insisting that the mission was suicide. No creature could survive the polar region's conditions, especially not a human with no natural armor or environmental protection. "I've been in worse places," Davis said, checking her equipment. "Arctic training in Alaska prepared me for cold weather, and I've worked in high radiation zones before." She set off alone, carrying only basic survival gear and emergency medical supplies. The Karathi expected her to die within hours. Instead, Davis completed a 3-day journey through conditions that had killed elite Karathi warriors in the past. She found the crashed shuttle and the surviving crew members, who were barely alive in their emergency shelter. Using human first aid techniques, she stabilized their injuries and jury-rigged repairs to their life support system. Then she guided them back to safety through terrain that the Karathi considered impossible to cross. "How is this possible?" Vorthek asked when Davis returned with the rescued crew. "Our strongest warriors have died in conditions less severe than what you just survived," Davis shrugged. "I just took it one step at a time. The cold wasn't too bad if you kept moving. And the radiation levels weren't immediately dangerous. I've done longer hikes in worse weather back on Earth." Commander Steve Parker monitored the mission from orbit and watched his people accomplish what the galaxy's toughest species found barely possible. When Private Chris Thompson accidentally fell into a deep crevasse and emerged 3 hours later, with only minor cuts and bruises, the alien observers began to question everything they thought they knew about survival. "A fall like that would have killed any Karathi warrior," Zethrix reported to his superiors. "The human sustained injuries that our medical team considers impossible to survive," yet he walked away and continued working. Dr. Martinez examined Thompson and found nothing more serious than scrapes and a mild concussion. The young soldier's bones were strong enough to survive impacts that would shatter Karathi armor, and his healing rate was far faster than anything in the galactic medical databases. The mission continued for 2 more weeks. The humans not only survived but began to thrive on Kepler 442b. They mapped large sections of the planet, collected scientific samples, and established permanent shelters that could support future expeditions. Meanwhile, the Karathi struggled with equipment failures, medical emergencies, and constant supply problems. By the end of the trial, the human team had exceeded every expectation. They had survived conditions that challenged the galaxy's apex predators and made it look easy. More importantly, they had rescued Karathi warriors and shared their survival techniques with the struggling alien expedition. Zethrix ran continuous biological scans on the humans throughout the mission. The data confused and frightened him. These creatures had no thick armor, no backup organs, and no special evolutionary adaptations for extreme environments. Yet they were outperforming species that had evolved specifically for survival in hostile conditions. "There is something we do not understand about these humans," Zethrix told Vorthek as they prepared to leave Kepler 442b. "They should not be able to do what we have witnessed." Vorthek watched Sergeant Davis and her team pack their simple equipment with the same casual attitude they had shown throughout the mission. The humans acted like they had just completed a routine training exercise rather than surviving 2 weeks in conditions that nearly killed his finest warriors. "Perhaps," Vorthek said slowly, "we need to learn more about Earth and what kind of world produces creatures like this." The galaxy was about to discover that its definition of a death world was completely wrong. Dr. Rachel Stone worked late into the night, comparing data from dozens of worlds across the galaxy. As the New Horizons specialist in planet studies, She had been analyzing the differences between Earth and other inhabited worlds. What she discovered made her call Captain Jake Rodriguez immediately. "Jake, you need to see this," Rachel said, her voice shaking with excitement. "I've been running comparisons between Earth and the Karathi homeworld. We've got this completely backwards." Jake arrived at Rachel's lab within minutes. She had covered every wall with charts and graphs showing weather patterns, geological activity, and environmental dangers from different planets. Earth's data stood out like a red warning sign among the peaceful blue and green charts of other worlds. "Look at this," Rachel said, pointing to a massive chart. "The Karathi homeworld has temperature variations of maybe 50 degrees throughout the year. Earth regularly sees changes of over 200 degrees between our hottest and coldest places. Their worst storms produce winds of about 60 miles per hour. Our hurricanes reach over 200 miles per hour." Jake studied the numbers with growing amazement. "Are you saying Earth is more dangerous than their world?" "Much more dangerous," Rachel replied. "Their planet is like a gentle garden compared to Earth. We've been living on what the galaxy would consider a nightmare world, and we thought it was normal." The next morning, Jake called a meeting with the senior staff. Dr. Lisa Carter, Commander Steve Parker, and Dr. Paul Martinez gathered in the conference room to hear Rachel's findings. The information she presented shocked them all. Earth experiences an average of 1,500 earthquakes every day, Rachel explained. "Most are small, but we get major ones that can level entire cities. The Karathi homeworld has maybe one small earthquake per year. Their geological activity is almost non-existent compared to ours." Dr. Carter shook her head in disbelief. "What about weather systems? Their worst storm in recorded history would barely qualify as a light rain shower on Earth," Rachel continued. "They don't have tornadoes, hurricanes, blizzards, or any of the weather events we consider normal. A thunderstorm would terrify them." Commander Parker leaned forward. "And we've been living with this our entire lives. Every human who has ever lived has survived conditions that would kill most galactic species," Rachel confirmed. "We don't even notice dangers that would force other civilizations to evacuate entire planets." Jake made a decision that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity. He sent a message to the Galactic Council, inviting representatives from 12 different species to observe human capabilities firsthand. The demonstration would take place at Titan Base, a research station where humans had been working for over 10 years. 3 weeks later, delegations from across the galaxy arrived at Titan Base. The station orbited a gas giant with radiation levels that required special shielding for most species. Ambassador Vorthek led the Karathi delegation, still trying to understand what he had witnessed on Kepler-442b. The alien delegates required full environmental suits and life support systems just to survive in the station's corridors. The radiation levels, gravity fluctuations, and atmospheric pressure were all within normal ranges for human operations, but deadly to most galactic species. Dr. Stone led the first tour through the station's research sections. The alien delegates followed nervously, their instruments constantly warning them of dangerous conditions. Meanwhile, human researchers worked in areas that the aliens' computers marked as immediately lethal. "This section studies cosmic radiation effects," Rachel explained as they entered a laboratory. "The radiation levels here are quite high, so we limit our work shifts to 8 hours at a time." The Karathi delegate's suit alarms began screaming. "Warnings, 8 hours?" he gasped. "We can only survive these levels for minutes at most." "Really?" Rachel looked surprised. "We consider this a minor workplace hazard, like working near a microwave oven." The tour continued through sections that amazed and terrified the alien visitors. The hydroponics bay, where humans grew food in soil that contained trace amounts of heavy metals that would poison most species. The engineering deck, where repair crews worked in zero gravity while exposed to radiation that would cook alien flesh in seconds. The real shock came when engineer Tony Kim demonstrated human problem-solving abilities. The station's life support system suffered a major failure during the visit, and alarms rang throughout the facility. The alien delegates prepared for immediate evacuation, certain that everyone would die within minutes. Instead, Tony and his team calmly assessed the situation. They put on basic spacesuits and went outside the station to repair the damaged systems. For 40 minutes, they worked in hard vacuum, surrounded by radiation and cosmic debris, fixing problems with simple hand tools. The watching Karathi couldn't believe what they were seeing. They are working in conditions that would instantly kill our finest engineers, Vorthik whispered to his aide. How is this possible? Dr. Helen Brooks, the station's doctor who specialized in mental health, conducted stress tests on both human and alien volunteers. The results were startling. The aliens' fear responses activated at threat levels that humans barely noticed. Their bodies went into panic mode when faced with dangers that humans considered routine. When Private Kevin Moore volunteered for a recreational parachute jump from the station to the planet below, the Karathi observer had what appeared to be a complete mental breakdown. The idea of voluntarily falling through space for fun was so alien to their survival instincts that they couldn't process it. Your people treat mortal danger as entertainment, the shaken Karathi scientist told Dr. Brooks. This behavior makes no sense from a survival perspective. We evolved on a world where danger was constant, Helen explained. Our ancestors had to take risks to find food, water, and shelter. Risk-taking became part of our nature because the cautious ones often starved. The final demonstration came when the station's sensors detected an incoming asteroid field. Chunks of rock and ice were heading directly toward the base, and the alien delegates immediately prepared for evacuation. Their emergency protocols demanded immediate retreat. When faced with such overwhelming danger, the human crew reacted very differently. They treated the asteroid field as what they called Tuesday afternoon cleanup duty. Repair teams suited up to fix any damage, while pilots launched small craft to deflect the larger rocks. The entire crew approached a cosmic disaster as if it were routine maintenance. This is a normal Tuesday for you, Ambassador Vorthik asked Captain Rodriguez in amazement. Pretty much, Jake replied. We get asteroid impacts, solar flares, equipment failures, and cosmic storms on a regular basis. You learn to deal with these things when you work in space. The alien delegates spent 3 days at Titan Base, and each day brought new revelations about human capabilities. They watched humans work in vacuum, survive radiation exposure, and solve problems that would require evacuation procedures for most species. More importantly, they saw humans treating galaxy-class threats as everyday obstacles. Dr. Carter compiled the biological data from the visit. Human cellular structure was optimized for repairing damage from constant environmental assault. Human psychology was designed to find solutions rather than flee from danger. Human social cooperation had evolved to overcome challenges that no individual could survive alone. Every trait that other species see as a human weakness is actually a survival adaptation, Lisa explained to the assembled delegates. Our aggression helps us fight for resources. Our curiosity drives us to explore dangerous places that might have what we need. Our territorial behavior protects our communities from threats. The delegates returned to their homeworlds with a new understanding of humanity. The creatures they had dismissed as weak and fragile were actually survivors from a world so hostile that it had created the galaxy's most dangerous species. Earth wasn't a mild, gentle planet. It was a death world that made the galaxy's most challenging environments look safe. Ambassador Vorthek filed his final report with the Galactic Council. His words would reshape how every civilization in the galaxy thought about survival, strength, and what it meant to be truly dangerous. The humans weren't just another species seeking membership in galactic society. They were apex predators from a nightmare world, and they had finally revealed themselves to the universe. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the massive hall, all talking at once about the reports from Titan Base. Ambassador Vorthik stood at the center podium, trying to explain what he had witnessed. His words sent waves of fear and amazement through the assembled delegates. "The humans are not what we thought," Vorthik announced, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "They are not weak creatures from a gentle world. They are survivors from the most dangerous planet we have ever discovered." Council leader Zarian, an ancient being from the peaceful Altair system, called for order. "Ambassador Vorthik, your reports are difficult to believe. You claim that humans can survive in conditions that would kill our finest warriors. How is this possible?" Vorthik activated a holographic display showing data from the human demonstrations. The numbers shocked the assembled delegates. Radiation levels that would cook most species in minutes, temperature extremes that would shatter bones, atmospheric pressures that would crush internal organs, and humans worked in these conditions every day. "We tested them on Kepler 442b, a world we considered moderately hostile," Vorthik continued. "They not only survived, but thrived. They rescued our people and made our survival look clumsy and weak. Then we visited their space station, where they performed tasks that our computers classify as impossible." Dr. Zethrix, the Karathi scientist, stepped forward to present his biological findings. "I have studied human physiology for months. They have no thick armor, no backup organs, no hibernation abilities. Yet they outperform species that evolved specifically for survival. Their bodies repair damage at rates we thought impossible. Their minds remain calm in situations that would cause panic in our finest soldiers." The chamber erupted in discussions as delegates tried to process this information. Species that had considered themselves strong and advanced were learning that they had been living in what amounted to a protected nature preserve compared to Earth. Captain Jake Rodriguez received permission to address the council directly. He stood before the assembled representatives with the calm confidence that other species were beginning to recognize as typically human. His words would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about survival and strength. "Honorable delegates," Jake began, "I think there's been a misunderstanding about Earth and humanity. You've classified our world as mild and gentle, but that's not accurate. Earth shaped us through constant survival pressure that would destroy most civilizations." Jake activated a presentation showing Earth's history. The images of massive volcanic eruptions, continent-covering ice sheets, and extinction events that wiped out entire ecosystems made the alien delegates gasp in horror. These were not the mild conditions they expected from human homeworld records. "Ice ages lasted for millions of years," Jake explained. "Our ancestors survived when most life on the planet died. Volcanic eruptions blocked out the sun for decades. And our people found ways to live in permanent darkness. Earthquakes split the ground apart, floods covered entire continents, and storms destroyed everything in their path. Every human you meet carries the genes of survivors who lived through disasters that would end most civilizations." Dr. Lisa Carter joined Jake at the podium to present the biological evidence. She showed detailed scans of human cellular structure, comparing it to other galactic species. The differences were shocking. "Human cells are designed to repair constant damage," Lisa explained. "Our ancestors lived with radiation from cosmic rays, toxic gases from volcanic activity, and temperature. Changes that would kill most life forms. Our bodies learned to fix themselves faster than the environment could destroy them." She showed brain scans comparing human and alien psychology. Human minds are wired to solve problems rather than run from them. When we see danger, our first instinct is to find a way through it or around it. Most species have flight responses that activate much earlier than ours. We stay calm in situations that would terrify other beings. The Council's military advisor, General Corex, stood up with a question that made the chamber fall silent. Captain Rodriguez, if humans are capable of such survival feats, what does this make them as potential threats? Your species has only recently developed space travel, yet you display capabilities that surpass our most advanced warriors. Jake nodded to Lieutenant Colonel Mark Johnson, who represented Earth's military forces. Mark stepped forward with the same calm demeanor that was becoming familiar to the alien observers. His explanation of human warfare capabilities sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. General Corex, humans have been fighting wars on a scale that might surprise you, Mark began. We've developed weapons that can destroy entire continents, strategies that turn whole planets into battlegrounds, and tactics that plan conflicts across centuries. Mark showed images of human military technology, nuclear weapons that could sterilize vast areas, biological weapons that could target specific genetic markers, and space-based systems that could redirect asteroids as weapons. The alien delegates watched in growing horror as they realized the implications. You developed these weapons how long after discovering electricity? General Corex asked, his voice barely steady. About 70 years, Mark replied. We tend to advance quickly when we're threatened. The revelation that humans considered nuclear weapons conventional armaments sent waves of panic through the chamber. Species that had taken thousands of years to develop basic energy weapons were learning that humans had created planet-killing devices within a single lifetime. Our military doctrine is based on total victory, Mark continued. We don't fight wars to achieve limited goals. We fight to completely defeat our enemies and remove the threat permanently. This approach comes from living on a world where half measures meant extinction. Ambassador Vothak added his own observations about human military thinking. I have studied their historical conflicts. Humans wage war with a level of intensity and innovation that we have never seen. They adapt their tactics constantly, learn from every defeat, and never stop fighting until they achieve complete victory. The chamber grew quiet as the delegates absorbed this information. Dr. Carter presented more evidence about human social cooperation and problem-solving abilities. Humans worked together to overcome challenges that would scatter other species. They shared resources during disasters, organized rescue operations in impossible conditions, and rebuilt civilization after catastrophic events. Every major human city has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times, Lisa explained. Natural disasters that would end most civilizations are just temporary setbacks for humans. They rebuild bigger and stronger, learning from each disaster to better survive the next one. The psychological evaluation results were equally disturbing to the alien observers. Humans actively sought out dangerous situations for entertainment and personal growth. They climbed mountains that could kill them, explored caves that could collapse, and participated in sports that other species would classify as forms of suicide. Risk-taking is built into human nature, Dr. Helen Brooks explained via holographic transmission from Titan Base. Our ancestors had to take risks to survive. The ones who played it safe often died anyway, so we evolved to be bold when facing danger. The council members began to understand the implications. Humanity wasn't just another species seeking to join galactic civilization. They were apex predators from a world so hostile that it had forged them into the most dangerous beings the galaxy had ever encountered. The Karathi, once proud of their reputation as the galaxy's strongest survivors, now looked like children playing in a safe playground compared to humans. Every species that had considered itself advanced and powerful was realizing they had been living in the cosmic equivalent of a peaceful garden. While humans grew up and held at council, leader Zarian called for a recess as the delegates struggled to process this new information. The quiet conversations that filled the chamber all centered on the same terrifying question. If humans were this capable as survivors and warriors, what did their arrival mean for the rest of the galaxy? The universe had found its true apex predators, and they had been hiding in plain sight, mistaken for weak creatures from a gentle world. Now the galaxy had to decide what to do with this knowledge and how to coexist with beings who redefined what it meant to be dangerous. 6 months after the emergency council session, the galaxy looked very different. The universal species classification system had been completely rewritten, and humanity's new designation shocked civilizations across known space. The official documents now listed humans as Category X, Apex Deathworld Survivor, and Earth as a Class 10 hostile environment, a classification so dangerous that no known civilization had ever evolved on such a world. Captain Jake Rodriguez stood in his new office aboard the starship Apex Survivor, reading reports from across the galaxy. The ship's name had been chosen by popular vote among the crew, reflecting humanity's new status in galactic society. Jake smiled as he read about the changes happening on dozens of worlds. On the Karathi homeworld, Ambassador Vorthik had established the Human Study Institute. The massive facility housed thousands of Karathi warriors who came to learn from the species that had redefined survival. The proud reptilian beings who once thought themselves the galaxy's toughest now trained under human instructors, learning that true strength came from adaptability and the refusal to give up. The humans have taught us that armor and backup organs mean nothing if you cannot think your way out of danger, Vorthek explained to a group of new students. Their greatest weapon is not their technology or their physical abilities. It is their minds that refuse to accept defeat. Dr. Lisa Carter had accepted the position of Chief Human Survival Specialist to the Galactic Council. Her job was teaching other species how to think like humans when facing impossible challenges. The irony was not lost on her. The galaxy's supposedly weakest species was now training its strongest in the art of staying alive. The key to human survival is not avoiding danger, Lisa explained to a mixed class of alien students. It is learning to work with danger, to find opportunities in crisis, and to never stop looking for solutions even when the situation seems hopeless. Her students included Karathi warriors, Centauri diplomats, and vegan scientists. All of them struggled with human survival concepts that seemed to contradict everything they had learned about staying safe. The idea of taking calculated risks to achieve greater safety was alien to most galactic thinking. Dr. Rachel Stone found herself leading geological surveys of worlds that other species had written off as uninhabitable. Her team of human explorers, working alongside alien scientists, discovered resources and opportunities on planets that had been considered worthless death traps. This world has constant volcanic activity, the Altarian scientist Kethvar observed as they landed on a planet covered in active lava flows. My people classified it as completely uninhabitable. Rachel checked her instruments and smiled. Geothermal energy, rare mineral deposits, and stable underground caverns. We could have a thriving colony here within 2 years. The transformation was happening everywhere. Species that had hidden from cosmic storms now asked humans to teach them how to work during solar flares. Civilizations that evacuated entire systems during asteroid impacts learned human techniques for turning space debris into useful materials. The Karathi military sent their finest warriors to train with human soldiers. General Korex himself attended the first joint training exercise on a moon that both species considered challenging. He watched in amazement as human Marines taught Karathi commandos how to operate in conditions that would have killed both species. Ancestors, your people moved through this environment like they were born to it, General Korex told Lieutenant Colonel Mark Johnson as they watched troops navigate a radiation-soaked canyon. In a way, we were, Mark replied. Earth taught us that every environment has rules. Learn the rules, respect them, and you can survive anywhere. The training programs revealed fundamental differences in how humans and aliens approach survival. Most galactic species had evolved to avoid danger, developing thick armor, hibernation abilities, or advanced technology to protect themselves from hostile environments. Humans had evolved to adapt to danger, developing flexible bodies, creative minds, and social cooperation to overcome threats that couldn't be avoided. Commander Steve Parker led the first joint expedition to explore the galaxy's most dangerous regions. The crew of the Apex Survivor included volunteers from 12 different species, all eager to learn human survival techniques. The mission roster read like a who's who of galactic civilization, with representatives from every major world wanting to study human methods. "Today we're surveying the Maelstrom Nebula," Steve announced to his mixed crew. Previous expeditions have declared it impossible to navigate due to gravitational anomalies, radiation storms, and spatial distortions. The alien crew members checked their equipment nervously. The Maelstrom Nebula had destroyed 17 exploration vessels over the past century. Their species' best pilots and scientists had declared it a death trap that no sane being would. Enter Dr. Paul Martinez, now serving as the expedition's chief medical officer, prepared for casualties that never came. The human navigation team, working with alien scientists, found safe passages through the nebula that had been invisible to previous explorers. They discovered 3 habitable worlds and a stable wormhole that cut travel time between 2 major systems by months. "How did you know where to look?" asked the Centauri navigator Veltar. "We didn't," replied the human pilot Jenny Walsh. "We just kept trying different approaches until we found one that worked. Most problems have solutions if you're willing to keep looking." The success of joint human-alien expeditions changed how the galaxy approached exploration and colonization. Worlds that had been considered uninhabitable for thousands of years suddenly became prime real estate when human survival techniques made them accessible. Back on Earth, humanity was adjusting to its new role in galactic society. The planet that aliens had dismissed as a gentle garden world was now recognized as the ultimate survival training ground. Alien dignitaries visited Earth with the same awe that humans might have reserved for meeting gods. "Your oceans are filled with creatures that would terrify our finest warriors," observed the vegan ambassador during a visit to Earth's Pacific Research Station. "Yet your children swim in these waters for fun." Dr. Helen Brooks, now directing the Interspecies Psychology Institute, studied how different species adapted to learning human survival methods. She discovered that most aliens had to completely reprogram their fear responses to benefit from human training. "Fear is a tool," Helen explained to her students. "Humans feel fear just like everyone else, but we've learned to use it as information rather than letting it control our actions. Fear tells us what to pay attention to, not what to run away from." The Galactic Council's new exploration policies reflected humanity's influence. Instead of avoiding dangerous regions, the Council now sent joint expeditions to study and potentially colonize worlds that had previously been written off as impossible. Human techniques for surviving in hostile environments opened up vast areas of space that had been considered permanently off-limits. Ambassador Vorthik filed his final report on human integration into galactic society. His words would be studied by xenobiologists and military strategists for generations to come. "We spent 10,000 years believing we understood survival," Vorthik wrote. "We built thick armor and redundant organs, thinking these made us strong. We avoided danger and called it wisdom. Then the humans arrived and showed us that true survival is not about avoiding death. It is about thriving in its presence." The galaxy had learned a fundamental lesson about evolution and survival. The species that looked the most fragile were often the ones built for the hardest battles. Humanity, forged in Earth's endless trials, had been preparing for challenges the galaxy couldn't imagine. The universe had found its definition of a true Deathworlder. Not the species with the thickest armor or the most backup organs, but the ones who made survival itself an art form. The humans had arrived. They had redefined what it meant to be built for survival. And they were just getting started. From the deepest ocean trenches to the coldest void of space, humanity was teaching the galaxy that there was no such thing as an impossible environment, only environments that required better solutions.